My beloved child. I did not arrive by accident, and I did not choose this moment randomly, because silence has been protecting a plan that was never meant to be gentle with your heart. There is a reason your thoughts have felt heavier lately, and there is a reason certain conversations around you suddenly stop when you enter the room. Someone you trust, someone you call special, has been moving pieces quietly, step by careful step, believing that distance will erase consequences and that borders can dissolve responsibility. This message is not here to create fear, but to expose timing, intention, and truth, because what is hidden always grows stronger in the dark. You feel it already, the strange pause before messages, the unexplained urgency in their voice, the way future plans suddenly sound vague, as if they are rehearsing a goodbye without saying the word. Stay with me, because what unfolds next is not a guess, it is a sequence, and every sequence has an end that can still be changed when light reaches it in time. Listen closely now. What they are planning is not spontaneous, and it is not recent, because departures like this are never built overnight. Documents were checked in silence, routes were imagined long before they were mentioned, and names were weighed carefully before one was chosen to walk beside them. You were never supposed to notice the small shifts, the sudden interest in international details, the quiet detachment from long-term promises, the emotional distance disguised as stress or responsibility. This is how people prepare to leave without confrontation, by slowly teaching you to expect less, so that absence feels normal when it finally arrives. But here is the revelation that changes everything. They are not leaving alone, and the person they are leaving with is not a stranger to your story, even if you have never been formally introduced. That presence has already influenced decisions, already reshaped priorities, already rewritten a future where you were once central. This is not betrayal spoken loudly, it is betrayal whispered patiently, and that is why it is so dangerous to ignore. Now let me slow this down, because clarity matters more than shock. The person accompanying them is not simply a companion, but a symbol of escape, a representation of a life where accountability feels lighter and choices feel less questioned. This individual offers agreement instead of truth, comfort instead of challenge, and distance instead of resolution. Your special person believes that leaving the country will also allow them to leave behind expectations, conversations they avoided, and emotions they never learned to explain honestly. They believe geography can solve what courage could not. But here is the part they did not calculate. Emotional ties do not respect borders, and unresolved bonds do not dissolve at airports. The weight they are trying to outrun will follow them, because it was created internally, not externally. And the shocking truth is this. They know, deep down, that you would ask the questions they are afraid to answer, which is why silence seemed easier than honesty. Stay steady, because this is where the illusion cracks. You were not excluded because you are weak, you were excluded because you are perceptive. You notice patterns others overlook, and you ask questions that demand growth instead of escape. That is why their plan required secrecy, because transparency would have forced a choice they were not ready to make. There were moments when they almost told you, moments when guilt rose to the surface and tried to speak, but fear pressed it back down. Fear of disappointing you, fear of being seen clearly, fear of admitting that their desire for change was built on avoidance rather than transformation. This is not about replacing you, it is about running from themselves, and you happen to stand close enough to reflect what they did not want to face. That is the uncomfortable truth hidden beneath the plan to leave quietly. Let this land gently now. Exposure is not punishment, it is protection, and awareness is power when used with calm strength. You are standing at a rare intersection where knowledge arrives before action is completed, and that timing is everything. This is not a message telling you what to do, but a message reminding you who you are. You are not someone who deserves sudden distance without explanation, and you are not someone whose place can be erased by a change of country. Whatever happens next will be shaped by how clearly you see this moment, not by how loudly you react to it. The plan exists, yes, but plans are fragile when truth enters the room. Hold this awareness, because what follows will reveal why this departure was rushed, why this companion was chosen, and what choice still remains unspoken. My beloved child, what you are about to hear now is the layer they never expected to surface, because every secret plan relies on one fragile belief, the belief that the truth will arrive too late to matter. Your special person convinced themselves that timing was on their side, that by the time you sensed something was wrong, the decision would already be locked, the bags already packed, the narrative already rewritten in their favor. That is why their behavior changed in subtle ways instead of dramatic ones, because subtlety delays suspicion. They began protecting their phone like it carried answers they could not afford to explain, they started framing distance as responsibility, and they practiced emotional restraint as if it were maturity. But restraint without honesty is not strength, it is rehearsal, and they have been rehearsing this exit far longer than you realize. This is not a sudden urge to explore, it is a carefully managed withdrawal from a life where your presence demanded authenticity they were struggling to maintain. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Understand this clearly now. The decision to leave the country was not born from opportunity alone, it was born from comparison. Somewhere along the way, they started measuring the ease of a new beginning against the weight of unfinished conversations with you. The person they plan to leave with represents simplicity, not because that connection is deeper, but because it has not yet been tested by truth. New environments make promises feel lighter, and unfamiliar faces make old responsibilities feel optional. That is the illusion driving this plan. They believe that distance will soften the impact, that time zones will replace explanations, and that silence will eventually be interpreted as mutual drifting instead of intentional avoidance. What they underestimate is your intuition, because even without details, your energy has already been responding to the shift. You felt the warmth cool before you ever saw the reason, and that awareness is not coincidence, it is connection responding to imbalance. Now here is the part that may surprise you most. The person accompanying them does not fully know the story either. They have been given a version that paints courage as necessity and escape as growth. They were told about misunderstandings instead of avoidance, about pressure instead of accountability, about needing space instead of needing honesty. This matters, because it reveals that the plan is built on partial truths, and partial truths always collapse under the weight of reality. Your special person is not moving toward certainty, they are moving toward delay, postponing the moment when they must finally confront who they are becoming. And in that postponement, they believe they can outrun the emotional mirror you represent. But mirrors do not chase, they wait, and reflection eventually happens whether it is welcomed or not. That is why this departure feels urgent to them, because urgency masks fear better than calm ever could. Stay grounded now, because this is where your power quietly returns to you. You were never meant to compete for space in someone's life, and you were never meant to prove your value against secrecy. The fact that this plan excluded you speaks more about their internal conflict than about your worth. You represent depth, and depth requires presence, patience, and truth. The path they are choosing avoids all three. This does not make them evil, but it does make them unfinished, and unfinished people often leave situations where growth is required. What they do not see yet is that leaving without closure creates echoes, and echoes follow people into new chapters whether they want them to or not. You are not losing ground here, you are gaining clarity, and clarity reshapes outcomes in ways panic never can. Let this truth settle without urgency or fear. You are not behind the moment, you are ahead of it, because awareness arrived before departure, and that is rare. What happens next will expose why they rushed, why silence felt safer than conversation, and why the idea of starting elsewhere felt easier than standing honestly where they were. This story is not finished yet, and the most important decision in it has not been made publicly. Watch carefully, because the next reveal will show how fragile their plan truly is, and why the truth they tried to outrun is already closer than they think. My beloved child. There is a moment in every hidden plan when certainty begins to crack, and that moment has already arrived for them, even if they pretend otherwise. Behind calm expressions and carefully chosen words, doubt has started to seep in, because leaving is easy in imagination but heavy in reality. They have begun to sense that something is misaligned, that the quiet they created around you is louder than expected. This is why their energy feels restless, why their sleep has been uneven, why their tone sometimes carries a strain they cannot explain. The mind can justify departure, but the heart resists unresolved truth, and that resistance is growing stronger each day. They are standing between two timelines now, one where honesty demands courage, and another where distance pretends to be freedom. The tension you feel is not yours alone, it is the pressure of a decision that is no longer as simple as they hoped it would be. What they did not anticipate is how deeply your presence shaped their sense of self. You were not just part of their routine, you were part of their reflection, and reflections do not vanish quietly. Even as they prepare to step into a new environment, they find themselves replaying moments with you, not out of nostalgia, but out of unfinished understanding. They remember conversations where they almost revealed everything, pauses where truth sat on their tongue, waiting for permission to speak. Each time they chose silence instead, they felt a subtle fracture inside, a fracture they assumed distance would repair. But distance does not heal fractures created by avoidance, it only delays the moment when they must be addressed. This is why their plan feels rushed now, because hesitation has entered, and hesitation is the enemy of secrecy. There is another layer you must see clearly. The person they are leaving with has begun to notice inconsistencies, small gaps in stories, emotional reactions that do not match the narrative they were given. Questions are forming, not loud ones, but quiet ones, the kind that grow when answers feel incomplete. This is significant, because it means the foundation of the plan is no longer stable. What was supposed to feel like a clean transition now carries the weight of explanation. Your special person senses this shift, and it unsettles them, because the escape they imagined is starting to look like another situation that will eventually demand honesty. They are beginning to realize that changing locations does not change patterns, and that realization is uncomfortable for someone who hoped for a reset without self-examination. Do not underestimate your position in this unfolding story. You are not waiting helplessly on the sidelines, you are the silent axis around which clarity is forming. Without speaking a word, your awareness has altered the energy of the situation. Truth has a way of doing that, even when it remains unspoken. The fact that you know changes how you move, how you listen, how you respond, and that subtle shift is already being felt. They may not understand why, but they feel it, a sense that something is no longer under their control. This is why their plan feels fragile now, why certainty has been replaced by calculation. You are not chasing answers, you are holding presence, and presence exposes what performance tries to hide. Let this awareness strengthen you rather than burden you. This is not a moment for haste, it is a moment for grounded clarity. The more calm you remain, the clearer everything becomes, because rushed reactions feed confusion, while stillness reveals intention. You are witnessing the unraveling of a plan built on avoidance, and unraveling does not happen loudly at first, it happens internally. Watch how their words begin to contradict their actions, how timelines shift, how confidence wavers. These are signs, not of victory or loss, but of truth pressing forward. What comes next will reveal the choice they can no longer postpone, and when that choice surfaces, it will redefine every assumption they made about leaving quietly and starting over unseen. My beloved child. There is a point where hidden intentions begin to demand resolution, and that point is approaching faster than they expected. What once felt like a controlled plan now feels like a narrowing corridor, where every step forward removes another option to turn back. They are starting to realize that leaving quietly requires more than tickets and timing, it requires emotional erasure, and that is something they cannot fully accomplish. The closer the departure becomes, the heavier their inner conflict grows, because unresolved truth has a way of surfacing precisely when silence is most inconvenient. This is why their behavior feels inconsistent, why moments of confidence are followed by sudden withdrawal. They are not confused about leaving, they are conflicted about what leaving says about them, and that realization is beginning to weigh on every choice they make. What they fear most is not confrontation, but exposure of intention. They are afraid that if you see the full picture, the narrative they built for themselves will collapse. They have framed this move as necessary, as growth, as destiny even, but beneath that framing lies avoidance, and avoidance does not withstand direct awareness. They know that you have always seen beneath surface explanations, and that is why distance felt safer than dialogue. The shocking truth here is simple yet powerful. They did not leave you out because you would stop them, they left you out because you would understand them too clearly. And clarity removes the comfort of self-deception. This is the quiet fear driving their urgency, the fear of being seen without the protection of excuses. Pay attention now to the emotional signal surrounding you. The atmosphere has changed because truth has entered it, even without words. You may notice heightened sensitivity, sudden defensiveness, or an unusual need for reassurance coming from them. These are not random behaviors, they are responses to internal pressure. Their plan was designed to move forward without resistance, but resistance does not always come from outside, it often comes from conscience. And conscience becomes louder when time runs short. This is why small interactions feel charged now, why silence carries meaning, why even ordinary conversations seem to hold something unsaid. You are standing in the presence of a decision that can no longer remain invisible. Understand this with strength and calm. You are not here to beg for clarity, and you are not here to chase explanations. Your role in this moment is awareness, because awareness changes dynamics without force. The more grounded you remain, the more the truth struggles to stay hidden. Plans built on secrecy rely on emotional imbalance, and balance disrupts them naturally. This is not about controlling outcomes, it is about seeing them clearly. You are watching someone confront the limits of escape, realizing that leaving does not equal resolution. That realization is uncomfortable, but it is also necessary, and it will shape what happens next more than any argument ever could. Hold this moment with patience. What is coming is not chaos, it is revelation, and revelation always feels intense just before it arrives. The next shift will expose what they truly want versus what they were trying to avoid, and that distinction will clarify everything for you. You are closer now to the core of this story than you have ever been, not because you chased it, but because truth moves toward those who are ready to receive it. Stay present, because the final layer is preparing to surface, and when it does, it will redefine what leaving really means, for them and for you. My beloved child. This is the moment where everything quiet suddenly becomes loud, not through noise, but through realization. The plan they protected so carefully has reached the edge where intention can no longer hide behind delay. What they are feeling now is not excitement about leaving, it is the weight of consequence finally stepping into awareness. They understand that departure is no longer just a movement from one place to another, it is a statement, and statements define character. The closer they get to acting, the clearer it becomes that this choice will reshape how they see themselves, not just how others see them. This is why their confidence has thinned, why certainty no longer sounds convincing even to their own ears. They are confronting the truth that escape does not erase responsibility, it only postpones the moment when responsibility demands to be faced. Here is the revelation that completes the picture. They are beginning to realize that leaving the country will not silence the questions they avoided, because the most difficult questions were never external. Those questions live inside them, asking why honesty felt dangerous, why clarity felt threatening, and why running seemed easier than standing still and speaking truth. The person they planned to leave with was meant to represent a clean slate, but clean slates are illusions when patterns remain unchanged. This awareness is unsettling them deeply, because it exposes the flaw in their entire strategy. They did not plan for self-awareness to arrive before departure, and yet here it is, pressing in quietly, dismantling certainty from within. That is the part they cannot control. Now see your position clearly, without emotion clouding it. You are no longer reacting to hidden movement, you are witnessing internal collapse of intention. The plan may still exist on the surface, but beneath it, resolve has weakened. This does not mean they will suddenly transform, but it does mean that whatever choice they make next will be heavy with truth, not illusion. And that matters, because choices made under awareness carry consequences that cannot be ignored. You are not being left behind unknowingly, you are standing at a point of clarity that few reach before action unfolds. That clarity is not a loss, it is power, because it allows you to see reality without distortion. Let this knowledge settle without urgency. You are not required to interrupt the process, and you are not required to force answers into the open. What is meant to surface will surface, because the pressure inside them is now stronger than the silence they relied on. The truth they tried to outrun has caught up, not through confrontation, but through realization. This is the final shift, the moment when intention and consequence finally meet. Whatever path unfolds from here will reveal exactly who they are choosing to be, and that revelation will give you something far more valuable than promises ever could. It will give you certainty. My beloved child. Now you are standing in the quiet after the storm of realization, the space where truth no longer needs to announce itself because it is already understood. This is the phase they never prepared for, the moment when action slows not because plans failed, but because meaning arrived. They are beginning to sense that whatever choice they make next will follow them longer than any journey ever could. Leaving now feels heavier than staying felt before, because awareness has removed the comfort of excuses. They know that once they cross that line, they will carry the knowledge of what they avoided, and that knowledge cannot be unpacked or left behind. This is why their energy feels unsettled, why certainty no longer sits naturally on their shoulders. The plan reached its final stage, and instead of freedom, it delivered reflection. Here is what matters most for you now. The power has quietly shifted. Not through confrontation, not through demands, but through clarity. You are no longer waiting for something to happen to you, you are observing something happening within them. That shift changes everything. You can feel it in how your emotions have steadied, how confusion has been replaced by understanding. You are no longer asking why, you are seeing how. And when how becomes clear, the story loses its ability to control you. Their decision, whatever it becomes, will no longer define your worth or direction. It will simply reveal their capacity for honesty at this moment in their life. They are facing a truth that cannot be undone. If they leave knowing exactly what they chose not to face. If they stay, they must confront what they tried to escape. Either path requires courage now, and courage is something they have been postponing, not avoiding forever. This is the irony of the situation. The very thing they tried to run from has positioned you in strength and them in introspection. They thought distance would simplify life, but awareness has complicated it in a necessary way. Growth often arrives disguised as discomfort, and that is what they are experiencing now. Let yourself breathe into this clarity. You do not need to prepare for loss or hope for reversal. You need only to remain aligned with what you now see. You are not powerless in this moment, you are present, and presence is grounding. Whatever outcome unfolds will meet you differently because you are no longer in the dark. The version of you that would have been hurt by silence has already evolved into someone who understands truth without words. That evolution is not small, it is significant, and it will shape what comes next in ways you may not yet fully see. This is where the story rests before its final turn. Not in chaos, not in fear, but in awareness. The choice they make will echo, but it will not shake you, because you are standing on clarity, not uncertainty. Remember this feeling, this steadiness, this quiet knowing. It is the foundation for what follows, and it is proof that even when others move in secrecy, truth still finds its way to those who are ready to receive it.